Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational magazine celebrating 10 years. I'm also the best-selling publisher behind the boutique publishing company InspiredLivingPublishing.com, which is dedicated to giving visionary female entrepreneurs, coaches, and health practitioners a voice and a high-profile media and publishing platform to share their wisdom, enhance their expert status, and bring their brand and message out of the shadows. All of my brands, including this show, are dedicated to inspiring women to live their best lives. So welcome. I am so excited that you are circling up with me today. Are you tired of sitting on the sidelines of your life? Do you feel disconnected from your life and inner joy? Are you ready to stop marching to the sound of your own drum? Well, ladies, I've been there, and I got to tell you, it's time that all of us stop living on autopilot and start consciously creating a life from a place of personal power and joy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Joining me today is Felicia Baucom, of coach and contributing author to the upcoming Midlife Transformation, Redefining Life, Love, Health, and Success. And Felicia specializes in empowering women to march to their own drum and create their own unique path to happiness. As a former child of the military, she's very familiar with dealing with transitions and stepping out of her comfort zone, which she's had to do many times in her life and career. Felicia has a gift for balancing grassroots pragmatism with this wide openness to the spiritual side of life, and enjoys being a rebel, inspiring other women to connect with their inner rebel, and guiding them in figuring out the next chapter of their lives. Welcome, Felicia.
Thank you, Linda. It's awesome to be here and to be spending this time with you.
Well, you know, when we first met, I just fell in love instantly with your brand and your message because it just spoke to me. Like, I'm all about, as you know, about living authentically. So when I saw your website, marchtoyourown.com, it like gave me little soul giggles because I'm like, yes, that is what all my brands and messages about, is inspiring women to find their truth and live by it. So we had so much in common when we started speaking privately, and your story inspires me. As I said in the intro when I introduced you, you have, a child of the military. It's constant change and transformation. But what I'm most curious about to start this conversation is about living on autopilot, because I don't know about you, Felicia, but there was a time that's exactly how I lived my life, and I was so disconnected from my truth, my joy. Was there a time in your life that you were on autopilot? And if so, what happened, or what led you to stop marching to your own drum?
Well, there absolutely were times, many times, in my adult life, especially when I lived on autopilot. And it was mostly in the realm of work and with my career, because even though I had an unusual upbringing and my parents never really told me, well, you are going to be a wife and mother with kids and a dog, and you should have these beliefs, and this is how life is, so do that and give us grandchildren. They never told me how life was supposed to be, so I sort of figured it out myself. But when sometime around the time of high school and college, I guess by then I had not only become, I was no longer a child of the military. At the age of 18, at the time you transitioned out of that life, even if your parents were still in, I went to college and tapped into the cultural conditioning of what life should look like. And while I was never in a rush to get married and have kids, eventually I did get married and I have 4 cats. I didn't really create or figure out my own path to my career. I thought I was supposed to just get a job and work for the next 40 years. And so that's what I did, like most people did in the 90s when they graduated college. Some people got married and so on and so forth, but some people got jobs, and that's what you did. That's what I did. But each and every time, there would be the initial excitement of having this job and learning new things and so on and so forth, but I would hit a wall each and every time. And I've had 6 different jobs in my 20-year career in corporate America. Each time I would find myself just going through the motions, just day in and day out, go to work, do this thing or this series of things, come home, repeat 5 days a week, every week, month after month, year after year, and so on. And each time I'd ask myself, how am I supposed to do this for the rest of my life until I'm 60 some odd years old? I was asking this in my 20s. And so each time I would hit a wall, I would go back and forth. Should I stay? Should I go? Should I just hang in there and just find a way to make it work? And I was single. So at the time I was thinking, well, I should stick with it, and then maybe one day I will get married and someone else can figure it out for me. But I couldn't wait for that. And I decided on my own 3 different times in my corporate career, I left jobs with nothing else lined up. I said, no, I don't want to do this thing. I want to do something else. So I never really was sure what that something else was. So I'd end up in the same place again and again and again and again. And each time, a lot of excitement. Each time I'd hit the wall. And I'd be in this place of, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? So finally, a few years ago, I realized that I'm just going to be repeating this for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. And I've always been interested. I've always read self-help books, everything from Marianne Williamson's Return to Love to more recently Martha Beck's the more recent book, which I'm drawing a blank on right now. But and I've studied astrology. I've always had an interest in the ethereal side of things. So my mind was always there. My heart was always there. And the things I learned through lots of journaling, lots of meditation, those things helped me to step out on my own. The 3 different times, each time I tried to do it and still went back to the normal thing. And then finally this last time when I said enough is enough. And maybe it's a function of age. I don't know, but I feel more confident now and more inspired, assured to go forward. The assurance that I didn't have years ago for some reason, but I have that now. And maybe it was just things are cyclical. It's never linear.
Yeah, it's the wisdom that you've learned along the way, and your story is the story of so many women, right? Because to put it in perspective for our listeners, one or more of your careers was in the IT field. So think of it. You're in this IT field, but your soul is talking to you, right? Like, this isn't where you're supposed to be. But you didn't have maybe to decipher the language at that time, right? You just kept always feeling this feeling of, I'm here, but I don't belong. And that's what I hear from so many of my clients, from women in my community, of they wake up in the middle of their life. And that's what the stories in the book that you're in, Midlife Transformation, it's about women's stories of waking up in the middle of their life going, how the heck did I get here and how the heck do I get out? And so I love what you shared about your story, Felicia, is that you would know and feel that calling, and what I love is you were courageous enough each time to say, oh my God, I can't stay here, and you would leave. where the outside world might go, what is she doing, changing jobs again? But when you're following a soul-inspired life, when you're following what you talk about, when you're marching to your own drum, it's such a deep-seated need that you have to keep following. And would you describe it that way, that it was like a pulling, that, okay, you're not on the right path. You might not know what path you belong on, but you just knew you weren't on the right one?
Well, absolutely, it was a pulling. And in fact, what's interesting is that I was 19 years old between my freshman and sophomore year in college when I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And that was before my first job out of college. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know how to make that happen. People in my life weren't entrepreneurs, and so I didn't really have any role models. 10 years later, I knew I wanted to be in the field of counseling or coaching, and that was one of the times where I left the job, left the East Coast with just me and my cat, nothing lined up in California, went out there and studied psychology for a few years, ended up staying out there for 4 years total. So I made a huge leap doing that. I felt that pull. When someone told me about the school, at the time it was called the Institute of Transpersonal Psychology, and someone told me about the school, I thought, I need to be there. And I made that happen.
And that's powerful. I mean, I want everyone to sit with that for a moment, because so many women that are living on autopilot, they can see, they know something's on the other side. They know they're being called to peek over the fence, right, at the life that could be, but they're so fearful to make a change, to take a chance, to follow their dreams, that they just, they let go of the fence and say, I'm not going to peek over there anymore at what could be. And do you notice that was your truth as this all unfolded for you?
Yes, absolutely. And I'd peek over that fence, and it was, and I won't lie and say there wasn't any fear. There were certainly moments where I thought, what am I doing? And,
of course, that's normal, though. All of us feel the fear. And what's that saying? Feel the fear and do it anyway. It's so true. And anyone that says they don't feel fear in the middle of major life changes isn't being honest with themselves, right? Because it's a normal part of the process and of living. And I want to dive into this even more when we come back from break. And we'll be back in a moment with Felicia of MarchToYourOwnDrum.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
You're listening listening to Inspired Conversations. Welcome back. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and we're talking about marching to your own drum, living authentically, taking action in spite of fear, and Felicia has done just that. So, Felicia, as you continually kept, I call it testing your courage muscles, right? First you take the little steps, and it's like, oh, my God, I can't believe I did that. Did you notice, though, that over the years, we'll say the last 10 years, that the more you did it, the more courageous you became, because every time you look fear in the face, I think it gets smaller. That was my truth anyway. And now I do everything by, if I get inspired to do something, create something, launch something, work with someone, it's an instantaneous knowing that that feeling and emotion is there for a reason, and I now can trust that guidance completely. Has it unfolded that way for you, that you felt more courageous with every step?
Yes, absolutely. I felt like each time I made a leap, each time I crossed that threshold, and there was certainly a lot of fear before I did it. There was some fear as I was doing it, still some fear afterwards, but I felt more confident. I felt like, wow, I did this. I did this thing. In one case with moving to California, I went out there. I was able to support myself the entire time I was there. I made new friends. I finished my schooling. And I came back to the East Coast, and with the same cat. And so I was successful in those ways, and I was able to do other things from that place. Like from California, I took off to France for 3 weeks completely by myself, and never been to a foreign country by myself. I'd been to a foreign country before, but not by myself. And so I did that and lived there as if I was one of the locals. I didn't even speak French that well, but I did that, and then I did it again a few years later. And then now taking this leap from corporate to building my own business, that was a huge thing because of all the conditioning I had, the pull to stay where I was. But knowing that I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur, this is the field I'm interested in. And then as I lived my own life, marching to my own drum, wanting to inspire other people to do the same thing, it all coalesced into this point in time where I was able to say, no, I'm done with corporate. I'm not going back. I'm not living my life on autopilot anymore, because that's what it would be ultimately if I did go back. And I'm creating this new business, doing the work of helping other people to face their fears and to acknowledge them, certainly. And those fears, and there's certain types of fears where you certainly, a fear where it's like, don't go in that dark alley. There's that kind of fear, but that's not the kind of fear I'm talking about. It's the kind of fear where it's hard to describe, but you feel really excited. That curiosity just kicks in, and it's bigger than the fear.
Oh, I love that you just said that, because as I've shared in many shows and appearances I've done, there's a little quote on my computer monitor that says, it's an affirmation, my dreams are stronger and more real than any false fears that may arise. And that's been there probably 6 years, because fears are going to come up. Like, Linda, what are you crazy starting a radio show? Linda, what are you nuts starting a magazine? So those are normal fears, and it's just up to us to do the inner work and get the support to break through them, because the world needs our message.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that quote. And it's always
sounds like that's how you've been living, is by that quote.
Yeah, my dreams of my dreams of wanting to live in Paris, even if it was just for a few weeks, I was able to achieve that, for instance. And my dream of having this business, I was able to achieve that. And I'm always curious, too. I'm always curious about other people, other things, what's over there, and what does that look like? What does that feel like? There's always like that natural curiosity and maybe that's why I have cats. They're always curious, too. But it's I can never put a lid on that. So,
no, because it's the essence of who you are, and some of the words that you use to describe your journey reminds me of mine in I think it was 1989, maybe 1992. Everyone said, I had just gotten off welfare 3 years before. I was a single mom, and I did everything I should do, right? I went to a job training program. I got a corporate job. And probably 2 years into the corporate job, I was sitting in the little cubby thing, and it was a big company, and I remember, and I wasn't as spiritual or intuitive as I am now. So I'm going to share it, but the knowings were very different back then. I just remember, and I can still see what the cubby looked like. I remember going, oh my God, my soul's dying. I can't do this. I cannot. And I didn't even know what it meant to say your soul is dying. I was looking around. It felt like I was looking above myself. And I remember looking around going, oh my God, look at them. They've been here 30 years. They didn't want to be here. Their joy is gone. They're resentful. They're angry. All because they were too afraid to take a chance. 2 weeks later, my family almost had a heart attack. I gave notice and decided to become an entrepreneur. That was 1992. I opened my first business with $2,400, and within 5 years was entrepreneur for the state Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year for that division, all because I took a chance. And that's what we're talking about today, right? The seed that's in your heart, and you don't know how the heck you're going to get there, but you know something within you is nudging you that you don't belong where you are.
Yeah, there's always been that nudge. And I do want to go back to what you're saying about your soul dying. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've felt that. And particularly with work and even with relationships. I had a few relationships before I got married to the man I'm with now. And there were several times in those relationships where I felt that sense too. And I said, I'm fine. I can do bad by myself. I don't need this anymore. It's been great. It was a little bit more elaborate and involved in that, of course. I'm not making light of that. But at a time when people my age were having babies and such, I didn't want to do that if it meant that I felt like my soul was. I felt that way when we weren't committed legally. I'd feel that way if we were. I saw that writing on the wall. So with that, and I would say that I knew each time I started to feel that it was time to make a change. May not have made a change immediately, but I made a change eventually. And even if it looked crazy, even if people were saying, well, maybe you just need to take a vacation, or maybe you just need to, some surface area thing that was supposed to solve the bigger problem. Take meds, for instance. I had a therapist once who suggested the meds, and I didn't feel like that was the solution. That wouldn't solve the problem. I would just continue to be on autopilot, or I would just continue to feel like something bigger was supposed to happen. That's the thing. I always felt like something bigger was supposed to happen. So I keep following that nudge. I don't always know exactly how things are going to turn out. Because I'm also creative. I make jewelry. I've done paintings. I don't know how those are going to turn out always.
But anything in life, Felicia, none of us know how life is going to turn out, right? We just have to keep taking the baby steps that are placed in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, the courageous part, is taking those baby steps even when you can't see what the end result is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Is taking the baby steps. And in my work with women, what I encourage them to do is if they want to make the big leap, they want to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, for instance, or they want to leave their corporate job and start a business, I'm all for that. And for those who want to be more cautious, I understand that too. You can take the baby steps.
Exactly. It's about, I believe it's about honoring what everyone that follows me on social media, I use the hashtag Soul Whispers. It's about following those soul whispers, learning to trust that what you're receiving is for your highest and best, and taking action from there. And I've had, and I don't know if this resonates with you, but I know I've been asked many times, and I'm assuming that you have, is like, how do you know when it's the soul whispers leading the way and not fear and ego? And I'm like, I know for me, it's when I feel excited, passionate, and expansive, then I know it's my soul, right? It's my heart, it's my deepest desires. If I feel fearful, constricted, nervous, then I know it's my ego trying to keep me small again.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel that way for you when you're processing?
Yeah, when I feel expansive, when I feel open, I'm really excited. I'm doing a lot of research. I love to do research on topics of interest, and I'll research until I cannot find anything. There's nothing else on Google to find about this particular topic. When I was told about the school in California, it was like, oh, it's literally like a chorus singing. It felt that way inside. That's the feeling that I follow, and feeling just totally excited about it, and it's on my mind constantly, and I'm really looking at it from all different angles. That's when I feel like I'm onto something. And
it's such an empowering place to live from. And we're going to be talking about that and so much more when we come back from our break. I'm here with Felicia Baucom from MarchToYourOwnDrum.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
What if you could live the life of your dreams, the life that you came here to live? What if you were able to honor your gifts and passions, turn them into a heart-centered business, and make a big difference in the world, all while living authentically and doing the work you love? It is possible. Patricia Young, president and founder of InnerProsperityAcademy.com, knows that awakening to your own truth, aligning with your life purpose, and having your own business is one of the most exciting and courageous things you will ever do in your life. Patricia helps spiritual, sensitive, and growth-oriented women start, grow, or transition into a business they love so they can go from working for a paycheck to working for a mission. For supportive resources, programs, and more to help you do just that, visit InnerProsperityAcademy.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. We're talking today all about following the whispers of your soul and honoring that voice within that's saying, don't settle for this. And what this is could be a relationship, an unhealthy body, a career that you're not connected with. And my guest today is Felicia Baucom of March to Your Own Drum, and she's a woman that's walking the walk, right? She is following excuse me, she's following the calling of her soul to follow and live according to what her deepest desires are. Now, does that mean it's easy? No. Does it mean it's scary? Yes. But doesn't it feel so much more empowering, Felicia, to know that every day you're making choices based on your truth instead of other people's shoulds or expectations?
It does, absolutely. I feel more aligned with myself, what I like, what I value. I really value being kind. I do value being rebellious, and I don't necessarily mean in the cliched motorcycle kind of way. I've never ridden a motorcycle. I don't have any tattoos, but and what I mean by that is just not following a path that everybody else is following, or what your parents may have told you. And again, my parents didn't really tell me what path I should follow. I figured it out on my own. But it feels is when I feel the difference between being in an environment where I'm told I have to dress like this, don't wear red nail polish. I actually worked at a place that didn't want us to wear red nail polish, and how to talk and how to point at things, and how just they want to tell you in some environments how to be. You can't bring your whole self to work. You have to leave that part of yourself, that's the door, the parts that they frown upon, don't like, whatever, and you're in this office space, or even in a relationship. You're in this relationship and you're behaving in a certain way. And it felt for me closed down. I felt shut down, felt disconnected. And it was easy to go in an autopilot from that place, for sure, because you didn't really have to think about anything. You just do the thing that you're supposed to be doing, and then that's it.
Something you just said really impacted me when you said it was expected that you couldn't bring your full self to your work, to your job. And it's like, that's what I believe is happening, right? I think that's where disconnect is happening, is when we don't live authentically and we have to keep putting on masks to exist, whether it's in a relationship, a job, etc. This was, and I'll just speak it for my truth, what happened is I woke up one day and realized I didn't know who I truly was, because I had put on so many masks from the time of, being a teenager on, that I became disconnected from my truth. I forgot what gave me joy. I forgot. Just forgot who I was. And I'm 54 today, but I woke up and started that discovery process probably in my 30s, and of course it's going to continue until I die. Is that a way to describe what you felt like, hiding behind masks?
Absolutely. I felt that way in those previous relationships. I felt that way in the corporate world, and some were more lenient than others, but I felt like I had to be professional, however they defined it. I couldn't say some of the quirky things that I liked to say at the time, and I couldn't really talk about the things I wanted to talk about. And that, at the time when I was really studying personal growth and self-help, that felt like I had to that really felt stifling to me. I had to put a lid on that. I had to talk professional all the time and just be this person that was really engaged in this corporate environment, or in the relationship in some cases, but what they wanted and what they expected of me, just it didn't feel right. But I went along with it, and then the more I went along with it, the more disconnected I felt. Now, what I would do when I could be on my own, away from work or away from the relationship, is I'd go back to reading my books or looking at my tarot cards or whatever, to try to maintain that thread, to stay connected. But then I felt like I was split in two, because then I'd go back to the job or the relationship and have to leave all that stuff behind again.
It's almost like the moment you walk through the office doors, the mask and the costume came on, and your real authentic self was waiting out in the car for you after 8 hours.
Yeah, and the costumes. I really don't like wearing pantyhose anymore. I had to wear pantyhose before. The costumes, no. I love now that I can wear whatever I want. But, the masks, the costumes, it was very stifling. I'd walk out the door, I could let all those go, and I could be me again. But I didn't like living. I felt like I was living two lives. And so I created this business so that I could have the one I can bring myself to work. And
you want to feel congruent throughout your whole life, not be segmented.
Absolutely.
And I think that's even though women that may be listening may not have a desire to have a business, right? But maybe they're showing up inauthentically in a different area of their life. And you may really be resonating with everything Felicia is talking about. And, I just wanted to say this could be happening to you and you could be living on autopilot, whether or not it's related to a job, a career, or a business. Again, it could be your relationships, your friendships, just life in general if you've been wearing a mask for so long. And in Felicia's case, as well as mine, it just manifested in our careers. But I have to say, for myself, Felicia, once I started living authentically and just finding what truly made me passionate, which is the work I've been doing, in publishing for many years, I noticed it by living authentically in that one area of my life, it rippled across everything. My relationships, I showed up more authentically in my relationships, which elevated the relationship. My friendships are deeper. There were so many benefits to living this way.
Yeah, it's definitely helped. Well, I went into this, the man I'm married to now, went into this relationship. He was very easy to get along with anyway, so went into it feeling like myself, feeling authentic and feeling like I could be myself. And so that's been the basis of our relationship and ultimately our marriage. And it's gotten even more so as I finally accepted where I wanted to be in terms of my business, in terms of my work. And then with my friendships as well. And I've built more friendships, such as with you, and I've created yet another community out in California. I've got friends around the world, and I wouldn't have all these things if I stayed on the other path. And it's not to say that those friendships or relationships were bad or anything or any sort of way. I just felt like under those circumstances, I didn't feel free to fully be myself, but I feel now with the friendships I have now and the ones I've built up. And even if I haven't met everyone in real life, they're still my friends. And I feel like it really has created that effect of building a community of more authentic people who really value being true to themselves.
And so true, because one of the benefits I found, and I hear from so many who start living from the inside out, is as we remove our masks, right, each of us, what I believe happens is the layers of masks come on, and that's a lifetime process, right, because we pick up masks all the time. And for myself, I was wearing so many for many years that it's been a process. But as we remove them, our soul, our inner light, our authentic self shines brighter. Before, it was so hidden because of all the layers that we couldn't attract to us those who resonated with that truth because they couldn't see it, because we weren't living it. And one of the greatest gifts that I found speaking to women who are on this path to living authentically and marching to their own drum is, as the masks come off and you shine brighter, it's almost like this radar goes out to the world, and all of a sudden amazing people come into your life, right? Deeper relationships, like you said, community, friendships. And I believe it's because now you're vibrating and shining at the level that they were looking for too. right? And I think that's so beautiful that's one of the benefits and side effects, I guess you can say, of doing the inner work to release all this stuff.
And another great side effect is that more and more these days, people have been telling me, you have great energy. And you seem so open and so easy to get along with. And it's not that I hadn't been hearing compliments throughout my life. And, you know, like other women, sometimes I've probably heard some nice things about, well, yeah, whatever, they're crazy. But I'm noticing that more now, that people have said these nice things about me and how I feel very passionate about what I'm doing. And I really wish there was one person who said something really, really nice. I really wish I remembered what she had said, but it was like, wow, something's happening. It was just, ultimately, that's how I felt, like, wow, okay, I hadn't heard that one before.
Well, what's happened is exactly what we've been talking about all this time. The more you show up and live authentically, have courage to break through your fears, you start shining brighter. And I believe, because I believe in law of attraction and vibration and energy, I believe that we start individually vibrating at a higher level. And that's when we start attracting others at a higher vibration. And it feels like old friends, old friends that suddenly find each other again. Because I know that some of the women that have come into my life, and many, as you know, I haven't had the blessing of meeting in person, but the depth of our relationships are so real and connected, even if they're virtual, because they're based on authenticity and love and intention. And I value them as much as I do the friend that I might have had for 20 years, because it's based on something even bigger than I've ever been able to experience. And we're going to take a break and come back in a moment with Felicia Baucom of MarchToYourOwnDrum.com. And I encourage you to visit her website, check out her complimentary free gift, and all the other wisdom she has on her site. We'll be back in a moment.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We can all use a little more peace and joy in our lives. Don't you agree? Counselor, best-selling author, and self-nurturing expert Kelly Grimes of CultivatingPeaceAndJoy.com is passionate about empowering overwhelmed and exhausted women to live with more peace, joy, and meaning through the practice of self-nurturing. Through her experience working with individuals, speaking, providing workshops, and teaching professional and leadership development to forward-thinking organizations, Kelly knows that nurturing peace in the world begins from the inside out. That's why she created the free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app that brings you beautiful self-nurturing reminders, guided meditations, empowering practice tools, and daily prompts with an inspiring question to guide your daily self-nurturing practice. Download your free Cultivating Peace and Joy mobile app today at CultivatingPeaceAndJoy.com.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back to Inspired Conversations. I am so excited that you're here today with me and my special guest, Felicia Baucom of MarchToYourOwnDrum.com. And we're talking about our journeys, to authenticity, stepping through our fears, and all that beautiful, unexpected benefits that come when you do that, like attracting your tribe. And when I say the word tribe, I use that word a lot because to me, a tribe is based on soul connection, right? When you hear the word community, we can all have a community, but a tribe is like a deeper soul connection where you just meet someone for the very first time and say, I feel like I've known you forever. And that's what we were just talking about before break, the depth of the relationships that come into your life as you peel off the layers of masks and false stories and fears is so beautiful. The relationships to be cherished, as you're finding out too, Felicia.
Absolutely. And I mean, even with my older friends, I feel like there's been a deepening in those relationships, and and being a military brat, I use the term brat affectionately. That's what we call ourselves. It's not meant to be a derogatory term for those who might be curious about that. But we moved around so much that friendships were not so easy to maintain. And it was definitely before the age of Facebook and the internet, so we had to write letters, if you remember those. And that got hard over time, and you develop more friendships, and the old ones fall away. But even in this, and I mention that because now one might assume that if they change, all their friendships are going to go away, and people aren't going to like them, and their husband's going to divorce them, or wife, or whoever, if you're male listening to this, or whatever the case might be. You might be worried that your friends aren't going to like you anymore, but I still have friends I've had that I met about 10 years ago when I lived on the East Coast the first time, and I came back and they were still here, and we're still all friends, and it's still, and I feel like for me, those relationships have developed more because I'm becoming more of who I am, and I've taken those masks off. So no, it's not necessarily that I felt the need to say this. Assure people that if you change, you make changes in your life, it's not going to be this huge exodus of people in your life necessarily. Some people might fall away. You might decide to let some people go, but you can still have your existing friendships, relationships, your family, and you'll develop new ones. And you'll meet those new soul friendships, people who feel like they've been your friends all of your life. And they'll expand and grow as time goes on.
So true. I'm glad you brought that up, because there used to be a time in my life I was so fearful of that. Like, oh no, what if I've been with Dana 21 years, so I'm going way before that relationship. What if he leaves me if I do this inner work and he leaves me? And I realized, and that used to be really hard on me, or family members, or, friends, until I came to a spiritual knowing, it's almost like it's a spiritual truth that not everyone's meant to stay in our lives for a lifetime, right? They're meant to come into their life. We're meant to learn lessons from each other, and it's all based the way it's meant to be. Does that make sense? And once I got that, I realized cherish the relationship you have while you have them, because life is about transition, transformation, and change. And it's okay as people come in and out of our lives, as long as it's done integritiously. And I'm not talking about drama situations. I'm talking about just a natural, organic flow. It is all the way it is meant to be. And once I got that, which was just 10 or 15 years ago, I came to such a more peaceful place in my life, and started making decisions that were for my highest and best good, knowing that when I live at my highest and best self, I am being of service to everyone who loves me and is in my intimate circle. And I just wanted to share that, because it is all part of the natural part of life, these transitions. And I have friends that I still have for 20 years, and then I've had others that have just, floated away, not for any reason, just because life changes. And I'm okay with that. I look back at the time together and say, wow, what blessings I received from their presence in my life. And so that's how I like to view and look at things now. And one of the things, what do you think? What do you believe is the bravest step you ever took towards going after your dream? Was it starting this your coaching business, March to Your Own Drum? Was it something else?
I would say it is. So far, it's been starting this business, because there's a visibility component that I've had to grapple with. And the visibility being putting my website out there, writing and putting that out there on the blog, the Aspire blog, as well as on my own website. There's the Facebook page that I created. Even that was difficult for me.
Well,
the fact that I
just want to say, Felicia, and because I want to make sure I cover this, that is so normal. So many women struggle with who am I to, and stepping out and being visible and having a spotlight shined on them. And I remember feeling it and wanting to hide under my desk, when I started when I left print to go into the online world. And then I said, you know what? If I don't make it about me and make it about who I'm here to serve and the lives I know I can transform, that's when the fear started getting smaller in regard to visibility. Does it still come up all these many years later? Of course it does. Every time I'm asked to be in a video or audio, summit, I'm like, what? You want me to be out there? And here I am doing it to you, right? Shining the spotlight on you. So it's so much a normal part of our healing journey as spiritual entrepreneurs. So I wanted to just say that because there's so many women. In fact, the show I just taped, this same thing came up also about the fear of visibility, of being seen, of speaking your truth. It's a fear of judgment, I think.
It's a fear of judgment. It is that question: who am I to, start my own business, put myself out there, say anything on social media, or whatever the case might be. Everyone's got their own worries about what they might look like out there, and someone might think, oh, well, that's crazy. What do you think you're doing? And that's enough for some people to shut down. But yeah, I didn't let things like that stop me in other situations, but I didn't have to be fully visible when I moved out to California, except when I was looking for a job so I could support myself. I didn't have to be fully visible when I went to France by myself, except showing up at the airport or whatever.
Well,
but in this case,
the new level, new devil, right? It's like
exactly the new exactly.
Yeah.
As we were talking about earlier, you're going through you go through these fears and you conquer those fears, or you work with them and you get to the other side, and then you go to the next thing, and then there's the next thing, and this is the next thing, and the biggest thing, and the visibility does that. Those inner gremlins like to come up when I post anything on social media or when I go to a networking event and talk about my business. But I like what you said too about making it about the people you're serving and focusing on them.
It's how I had to heal that, because there was a time period, especially when it came to video, and it's so funny because in the last 2 years I've recorded 30, 60, 90 video conversations on some other book projects that I did. Not all my books have video projects, but and that's coming from someone whose deepest fear was video. And I remember saying, I publicly, put it this way, this is what I did. I publicly announced that I was going to do it. And then I wanted to I purposely did that because I knew I wanted back out. And it was to challenge me through my own fears. And I publicly announced that it was going to be a video series instead of an audio series. And then I'll be honest, I was stressed out. I wanted to throw up for the first 4 that I had. It was scheduled in my, and finally I said, listen, this, just like this radio show, Felicia, and having you here today, it's not about us, right? It's about someone is listening right now that needed this message, needed the sacred reminder, needed to know that it's okay to be authentic, to be real, and to follow your dreams. And when we come from that place, when we're launching a product, a brand, a service, that's how you step through the fears. And I want to take the moment before we come to the end of our time together. I want to say, first off, thank you, because you've been so real and so vulnerable and authentic throughout our conversation today. And it's so refreshing because a lot of times, you speak to entrepreneurs, and I have most of my friends are all entrepreneurs, and they think they have to put that mask on of like, I have to be perfect, I'm going on the radio show, or I'm going to be doing this. People don't want perfection. They want truth. They want authenticity. They want realness. They want to know that it's okay to feel what they're feeling as they're building their business. I want to cry now. So I wanted to say thank you for that, because this is the kind of message I want to share. So thank you, my friend.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for allowing me to do this, and to also, in the thought of even doing a show like this, I have to admit it was I was nervous, but it's been fun, and I've enjoyed talking to you. I always enjoy talking to you because you're just awesome. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. And I want to invite everyone to visit Felicia at marchtooyourown.com. And I want to thank you for joining me for Inspired Conversations. And I invite you to listen in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for more conversations with visionary women like Felicia, who are here to share their feminine wisdom to support you in living your best life. For even more inspiration, claim your free subscription to Aspire magazine, which includes over 40 transformational gifts. You can do that at subscribetoaspire.com. Until next time, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.